This video is going to show secondary teachers how to prepare for their second semester classes. This video is for teachers who have multiple sections for the same subject that they are teaching. And there's a couple things that we need to be aware of before we get started. All assignments must have a due date tied to them. So after we walk through the process of saving this class and creating a new class, we have to have proper due dates on the assignments, and I'll show you how to do that. Another thing to keep in mind is our sections will have to be recreated, and we'll have to reattach our roster files to them. And then the third thing is you will lose your theme. So your nice colorful backgrounds that you have, you'll have to reset that. So what we want to do to get started is we're going to go to our manage class, and we're going to do a save class as. When we do that, we get a window that gives us an option of a template or new class. We want to select new class like it's set, all page content, and then from here you can pick what you want to bring over to your new saved class. Now, you may or may not choose to bring any of your assignments over. If you don't bring your assignments over and you recreate your assignments, it'll just be an easier process for you. But if you have assignments that you wanted to use from semester 1 to be included in semester 2, we'll have to go in and edit them and provide a due date for them. Another thing that we want to make sure that we have checked is to use the existing Google Drive files. Leave that set to that. There we go. Next, from here, you'll have a class name that you have to give it. In this instance, I'm just going to identify it with semester 2 behind it. That way I know it's easily identifiable for me. Your organization should be your current school that you're at. And if you scroll here, it should by default be set to year 2020, which is our school year. From here, we will just select save. Once we save that, you can see I lost my whole background, and it's going to take just a little bit to bring all your content over. You won't see your normal class setup identical to it until PowerSchool catches up with bringing everything over. I'm just going to refresh this and see if it brings in some of my pages, and it has. And from here, what we're going to want to do is before we bring any rosters in, this is our new saved class. It's identified as semester 2. Like I mentioned before we bring any rosters in, we want to go in and check our assignments to make sure that they have a due date and edit them. If I go under activities and assignments, you're going to see that I decided to bring my assignments over, but for an example here, here's where we can edit them. So if you brought them over by mistake and you want to delete them, just go ahead and delete them off here. I'm going to select this edit tab, and I'm going to scroll down. This has a due date here, but if it was set to a no due date, we want to make sure that we come down here and select the due date. Even if it's a due date that's past or way in the future, we want to make sure that there are no assignments that are brought over with a no due date status, because that can cause issues on the Power Teacher Pro side of it. From here, we could save. I'm going to check another one just to see. I'll scroll down. That has a due date as well on it. But if I wanted to and I didn't need this assignment, I could just select delete and say okay. It's going to ask me, do you really want to delete it? Yes, I want to delete this. And now I should be okay. I'm going to go back to my pages where we're going to take a look at bringing our sections in. If we go to our manage class and we go to edit roster, we're going to get the opportunity to create our sections here. We'll say okay to that window. By default, it gives you 2 sections, but let's say I taught 3 or 4 sections of this class. I'm just going to add one here. If I select it, I can edit it. This is probably nothing new here. I could name this period 1. I'm going to name this section here, maybe period 2. And then let's say this last section, period 6. Sometimes you'll see this where it keeps the old one, but it takes a moment for it to catch up with it. Let me go back up in here. There's period 1. Okay, so I just clicked on it and clicked off of it, and it came back for me. From here is where we can select our import roster. At this point, you want to select only list my classes, and you can do a search for your classes. Now, your second semester rosters are usually identified with a 2 at the back end of it, but not always. There's a setting in PowerTeacher Pro that you can go into, select that setting, and it should give you what your course number to import from your rosters here. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to find what class that you have, that's semester 2. You'll select import. You want to make sure that we keep it to link. You don't want a one-time import because then you're going to have to manually edit everything. You want to link your classes. So I will say continue. It's going to give me my student names, and I'm going to say import. Once my students are in here, you really never want to do an add student. You never want to manually add your students. What you want to do is if the front office makes a change and they add that student to your roster, then it's an overnight process. And sometimes if you don't see them right away, if you come over to manage roster, you can say sync with source, and that will go find them and bring them back for you. So there's a couple different things to look at there. The office has to have them in the right class, and it's an overnight process. You don't need to manually add your students. Another thing we're going to do is I'm going to go back to another section here. I'm going to select my period 2. I'm going to select import. Same process, search only my classes. I'm going to find my other class that I need to bring in for this. I want to link. I'm going to say continue. I'm going to import. And once they're in, you'll see that I have a link right here. It's linked. I want to go to my last class, period 6, import students, only my classes. Now, if you knew your course number and you selected only my classes here, you could type in an identifier in here and it would probably find it quicker. I'm just going to do the search. Now, keep in mind, a lot of teachers, most teachers will have several pages that they have to go to find their classes, their students. The ones that have 0 listed in there, no, you know that's not the proper class to bring in. So look for the ones that have the number of students and maybe a 2 that identifies it behind it. From here, we would select import. We have our link. It's very redundant. I'm going to say import. And then it's going to bring my class in. The next thing that we want to look at is when you're in this window, you're going to want to make sure that you make this class active. If you do not make it active, your students will not see your class. And there's like 3 different ways you can get to this window. When you're bringing in your rosters, you can select this Make Active tab here, and then it would make the class active. That's one way. I'm not going to do it yet because I'm going to show you a couple other ways. The other way that you could do it is if you go over to Manage Class, you can scroll down and you can say Make Active. You could select that. And then you select what the date is until you want to make it active. I'm going to close this. I'm going to cancel it because I'm going to show you the third way. The third way is if you go to your PowerSchool Learning Home tab, you select your My Classes, And you'll see an active tab, an inactive, and templates. If you go to inactive, you'll see that here's the class that I named second semester. I can select this tab here and I can make it active. At this point, I'm going to say until, let's say, June. And I'm going to say save. It took it away from my inactive and it brought it over to my active classes. If I select my home tab, I should be able to see it over here. And notice that I have two that were named the same, but I have an identifier here for semester 2. So it did make it active. When I select it, you're going to see that my theme is not, I still haven't changed my theme. So I can come over here and I can say edit theme. Then it gives you your own themes that you can create, or you can select a PowerSchool theme. Let me scroll over a couple. I'm just going to grab this one right here and I'm going to say apply. Once it applies it, now you have your new semester 2 class. You have your files, roster files that were imported properly. Our assignments that we brought over all had a due date on them to avoid issues with PowerTeacher Pro. We've made them active so we can now see our classes. And that is about it.